You want to accelerate learning? Here it is. Goals, deadlines, deliverables. I know that's so basic. That's personal development 101. Just most people have never applied it to learning. In high school, I want to learn French. You can just show up to French class once a week or 3 times a week and just consume. But unless it changes when you say, my goal is to learn conversational French because I'm going to Paris in 4 months. So in that 4 months, I want to be able to introduce myself, ask where a restaurant is, ask where a bathroom is, get around town and visit these specific places and ask for clarification and ask people if they speak English and ask where I should go. Now I got a structure. To learn French is philosophy level. To learn French at this level is the science. This is the science of learning. You've got to get more clear about your learning goals. What do you want to learn specifically? By when? And what is the thing that you can do, the output or the deliverable, that shows that you learned it?
Need motivation? Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to believe in myself. I quit on my business partner. And the thing that saved me was watching the successful stories of entrepreneurs. They gave me the inspiration to keep going, as well as the strategies of what to do. And quite honestly, I still need their stories and motivation today as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendon Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
Without these 3 things detailed, you are learning slow. And this is what most people do. You know, I'd like to learn about this thing. They buy 5 books on Amazon, one of which they read. They spend one random weekend downloading a TED Talk or, getting sucked into YouTube. But there was no goal. This is the architecture of learning. Would you write that down? This is the architecture. This is the foundation. Without this, you are just browsing. Let me say that again. Without this, you are browsing. You're not learning. Real learning requires this first and foremost. Write this down. Without goals, deadlines, and deliverables, you are browsing. You are not learning. And that's why most people are struggling. They're only browsing. They're only browsing. They're only reacting. They live a life of browsing, reacting, browsing, reacting, browsing, reacting. Without that goal, without that strive, that thing to go for, we're just going to meander forever. But we can't advance learning if we're meandering. Listen, you learn a lot by wandering. I love curiosity. I love walking around. But remember, I promised this was a session about advanced learning. This is not just about general conception and just like hoping to be inspired. Advanced learning requires a goal, a deadline, a deliverable.
Rule number 2 is get strategic.
This is such an important topic. If we're going to have goals and deadlines in our learning, we must never, ever, ever start from scratch or proceed randomly. Never start from scratch and proceed randomly. Not at an advanced level. You're going to spend so much dumb time wandering through the woods, not knowing what you're supposed to do. So this is where this idea comes into play. You've got to model, block the learning, and practice. Model, block, learn, and practice. Model, block, learn, and practice. What does this mean? Well, model is pretty obvious. It means get a plan, get a roadmap, find somebody who's already done it, understand their strategies, right? You're trying to lose weight. Don't just go to the gym. Find a fitness program and follow that thing. You'll get way more results when you find a program, a roadmap, a way, a style, a method, and you follow that than you ever will randomly making it up. There's nothing you want to do in your life that someone has not already figured out and already laid the path for, already drew the roadmap. Buy the course, go to this seminar, watch their video, listen to their podcast. There's already a model. Never try to advance something without a model, right? Never try to advance something without a model. Next up, block learn. This means there's blocks of time in every single week of your life for that thing that you are trying to advance learn. So it's like, oh my gosh, I got to learn that French pretty quick. Well, you're not going to learn on a weekend. We need to make it sure it's part of your life. Block learning. When are you going to learn, apply, or practice that thing? Like schedule it out and schedule your learning out like you schedule out your work. So many people, I look at their calendars and their calendars, all these meetings. And I look at all their meetings, I go, well, meetings are fairly reactive or prospective, right? You're either reaching out, prospecting, or you're reacting in interviews, or doing status meetings, brainstorming meetings. But I'm like, but where are you learning the things that are going to advance the company? Where are you learning the things that are going to advance your health, your relationships, your marriage? If you're married, if I came into your life and I looked at your calendar and you want a better marriage, and there's nothing in next week about where you have blocked time to learn how to have a better marriage, I'm like, how do you think that's going to improve? Your random date night? No. Like I remember in relationships when I was struggling because I never learned how to have a good relationship. So in my 20s, I would block time to literally read and listen to relationship programs. I would block time at some point to get therapy or get coaching. Like I had like 3, 4, 5 years. Let me say that again, 3, 4, 5 years of studying relationships every week. And if I hadn't done that, there's no way I believe I could have, been blessed to attract or meet or connect with Denise. It came from that learning. And it made me good in relationships with people. I wasn't naturally good that way. I had to demand it of myself. I had to block the time. Okay. And then practice whatever skill set you're trying to develop. Same thing. Is it in the calendar? Is it in the calendar? Where is the practice? Just like when you're trying to teach your kids to learn the violin, they got to set practice time. Okay, mom. Okay, dad. Where is your practice time? Where is it? Where's your practice time? You want to become wealthier? Okay. Where's your practice time to work on your finances? Where's your practice time to renegotiate that credit card bill? Where's your practice time to hit the gym? Where's your practice time to learn your new skill? Where's your practice time to do the homework? We have to have that in our own life. And when you don't have that, I know when I say this, you can get down to yourself, oh gosh, why haven't I been doing this? This is not an opportunity to beat yourself up for the past. This is an opportunity to learn and go, wow, let me set up this infrastructure in my life. Because learning, when it's set up as an infrastructure, that's how Olympians go from, good to one day a champion at their local level, to one day world level, to one day Olympic level. How? They set up the infrastructure around them to keep learning, to keep leveling up.
Rule number 3 is practice regularly.
If you really want to accelerate it, you've got to make the practice every day, or at least every week. I always tell people, if you're trying to learn something, every day. When I was trying to learn online marketing, every day I was studying a course. Every day I was watching a video. I mean, like every day for, I would say 3 years, I was taking some online marketing course for 3 years, every day. I want you to, every day. In that 3 years, I went from broke, literally in the verge of bankruptcy, to earning at the end of that third year, I'd made over $4 million. Broke, never did an online marketing, never set up a web page, never shot a video, never sent an email, didn't know how to do any of that. 3 years, every day, studying online marketing, 3 years every day. But also what I was doing, I was part of a community. I hired a mentor by basically taking their course and signing up for their coaching program. And I just stayed in it. And every day I studied, every day. And I think many of you could have gotten, similar or better results in a shorter amount of time. It took me 3 years every day till I finally was like, I think I really get this. 3 years every day before I had like that. Yeah, I think I really get this. All right. I didn't struggle with the esteem part. I always said, I can figure this out. But I know about myself. It takes me a little longer to learn than the average person. And I don't get discouraged. I just go, okay, I understand that about myself. But if I want to advance it, you can't dabble. You must immerse yourself. You must get committed. You must invest in yourself. You must dive in and make it part of your life. I did that in every area, from finances to health, to relationships, to running a business. All of those things I learned. That's why you all know every single day I read for at least an hour. I tend to have about 2.5 hours of block time a day for learning. And that learning might be a call to ask and interview somebody. That learning might be reading something. That learning might be something, and this is outside my normal job, right? This is just calling, asking, interviewing, researching, reading, just absolutely every day to this day, including Saturdays and Sundays. Learning is a part of my life. And I don't say that makes me fancy. I just know I need that much. That's my style. Maybe some of you can do it once a week because you're smart. And it's easier for you to go like, hey, Brendon, I do. I know people who can learn 4 or 5 times faster than me just natively. It's just a personal individual intelligence they have. They can really absorb. Their memory's better than mine. I've had 2 brain injuries. My memory sucks. So I gotta hear it a couple times for me to really break through. Everyone's got their different things. So this is, again, not a braggadocious session. It's like, it took me 3 years every day.
Rule number 4 is mentor others.
You want to learn better? Mentor others, teach others, coach others, influence or inspire others. There is no question about this in all of the expertise gaining literature, that those who teach the thing that they are learning as they're going rapidly accelerate their performance. Why? Because they're forced to, right? Like when you are learning something and you simultaneously have to explain it to another person, it reconfigures it in your brain. It makes your brain understand the concept and then communicate and express it. It simplifies it. It's almost like a filter of learning. And so if you're learning French, simultaneously as you're learning French, teach somebody French, right? Like, here's what I learned in French today. Why don't you learn along with me? As you learn it and you express it or teach it, coach it, or mentor it, your capabilities and your competency goes like levels way beyond. I always tell, I'm just really great example, actually. That billionaire I was sharing with you, we're working with, their kids, 2 of them, pretty young, had not learned how to swim yet. And they had them in separate schedules of swim practice. I said, no. We got to get those kids at the same swim practice. And one was slightly ahead of the others. I'm saying, we got to have the other kid coaching this kid on what they're learning in their practice. We accelerated them so far. So they're like, even their swim coach was blown away. Like, Brendon, have you worked with a lot of Olympians in swimming? I said, no, that's usually not my space there. I've worked with them on mindset stuff. But he's like, but you've never taught them how to swim or you never did, lap trials and stuff like that. Like, no, but I knew if you put the kids in there and they have to learn together and explain it to each other, they'll learn faster. Blown away. Pair people up. Have one person learning, one person teaching, and vice versa, and the learning goes faster.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 5 is set personal boundaries.
The most important boundaries you're ever going to set in your life are with yourself and what is acceptable with who you are, what is acceptable in how you conduct yourself. A boundary between the good self and the not so good self. A boundary between the higher level of who you are versus the lower impulses. A boundary in your own sense of what is right and wrong and what you will allow yourself. In other words, we're going to go into the conversation of standards that we allow in ourselves and in our lives. And I think when you think about a boundary, not just something between you and another person, but in your own mindset about what is allowed or not allowed, I think this could be a game-changing conversation today. And I'm gonna jump right into it because I don't want to like speak conceptually for you here. So let me talk about some important boundaries in your life. I'll talk about 3 huge internal boundaries. Then we'll talk about the standards that we allow in our life that may be really hurting us or accelerating us. First one, I think you guys are gonna love this. So you can grab a screen grab. I wish I was prettier with my fancy camera, but here we go. I think you're gonna like this one. The boundary of the fake self versus the real self. Take that screen grab. You got to get this. See, this boundary and what you allow here and how you conduct yourself here, it matters, doesn't it? When I talk about setting boundaries, very few people ever think about this one. Because when we talk about setting boundaries, we often feel victim to something. We feel like, oh, well, someone's encroaching on my boundaries. We'll talk about that. But this is the one that causes the real damage. When we blur the lines between who we authentically really are and how we are showing up to please or placate others, to minimize ourselves. That's the boundary. How much do you cross this boundary? You want to talk about the quality of your life? How much do you cross this boundary right here? Think about this. How much, how often do you cross this boundary? That can be the game changer in your life today.
Rule number 6 is track your habits.
Many people just don't succeed more because they never even found out where they're at. You know, it's like if you have a map and you don't know where you're at on the map, there's no way you can go to the destination. So where should you start? Tracking and measuring your habits over a period of time. Now, for a long time, I just used the high performance planner and that helped me do it every single day. Now I use the Growth Day app because the high performance habits are in there. But these are habits like measuring every day whether or not I felt like I had clarity and I stayed focused, whether or not I had good energy habits, whether or not I was productive that day, whether or not I tried to be a role model or was influential that day, whether or not I did something outside my comfort zone and sought to be or live a bold or courageous life. It helps me measure my diet, exercise, or diet, movement, sleep, and mood as well. Those are what we do in Growth Day. It's in the app, it's technologically enabled, it's awesome, it's convenient. If you don't have that, then what I want you to do is just write it out on a card. How are you going to measure your habits every day? And what habits specifically? This is really critical. Please listen to this. Achieving long-term success, it's really clear that the science shows is not related to your personality trait, your astrological charts. Sorry, I'm not dismissing that. I'm just saying the science over a period of time. It's not related to even your current income. It's not related to where you grew up. It's not related to your age. Long-term high performance, which is tied to external success, internal well-being, and positive relationships. Those 3 measures specifically, we studied in 190 countries around the world with the High Performance Institute, University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Department, and researchers from UC Santa Barbara. If you want long-term success, well-being, and positive relationships, what matters more than any other thing in the entire world is your habits, not your personality. So for those who are like, I can't succeed because I'm an introvert. Sorry, lots of extremely successful introverts. I can't do it because I'm an Enneagram 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, sorry, does not matter for long-term success. They're not correlated. They're cool to learn. Those are what are like StrengthsFinder, cool to learn. Those are tools for self-awareness. They are not correlated with long-term actual performance. Difference between self-awareness and performance, right? Some people are very self-aware, but can't work themselves out of a brown paper bag. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a difference of knowing thyself and performing over long term in such a way you maintain positive life satisfaction and relationships. Because you and I both know somebody who works really hard and they're successful, but they wrecked all their relationships and their health. That's not high performance. High performance is long-term success, well-being, and positive relationships. And please know, growth day members, if you're in the starter level or in the pro level, you have a full 6-hour training, a $300 course called High Performance Habit Builder from me in your app that you can watch for free if you're a starter or pro member, meaning you signed up for one of our annual memberships. That $300 course is available to all growth day members in any annual capacity. And that training will teach you the power of this research and help you think through a lot of the habits that really matter. What I'd love for you to think about is like, okay, I need to chart this out, bust up your journal, and like, what are the 10 habits you're going to measure yourself on every day from now to the end of the year? And a habit is something that you are doing on a consistent basis, not just an idea, not just a hope, not a goal or an ambition, a routine that you are doing. And either it's an automatic one, it's easy, or it's a deliberate one, it's hard. And I really encourage you, have your list. I'm just asking you, measure yourself every day. And here's the thing, I know you're like, but Brendon, I get discouraged when I'm doing that. Great. Read High Performance Habits and read the High Five Habit. And so when you don't feel like you're on your A game, you can still encourage yourself in the morning with a little bit of a high five, some good self-talk, and some basic practices throughout the day. You can get back on track, I promise you.
Rule number 7 is choose your friends.
And many of us, and I was this way probably all the way throughout high school even, I never, and this is the second problem of friendships, I never made the deliberate choice to have remarkable friendships. I kind of ended up with friends. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Who's like ended up with friends? Well, if you kind of just like ended up with like this person, it was kind of, my friend, one of my buddies he goes, I don't want no rando friends. And it was like random. Now, I love random. I love the universe. I love God. I love coincidence. Listen, I read the Celestine prophecy. People are glowing out there for me. I believe in that coincidence stuff. But I can also share with you, like, if you just allow randomness in your life all the time, you'll always feel a sense of mediocrity too. We have to stretch. We have to choose our life. And to choose our life, we have to be deliberate and go, what kind of life do I want? I would like you to learn to architect your ideal friendships. And can you get all of them? And will all your friendships be perfect? I'm not that guy. I'm not here to promise everything's gonna be sweet and perfect and peaches in life. I am here to suggest, though, that if you haven't deliberately chosen the types of friendships that you want, that's a problem, especially if you're an adult, right? And that's the thing is, we're not encouraged to do that. Think about how much time people were feeding your ears with the idea you had to be really thoughtful about the career you choose. How many of you ever had more people tell you more times about be so thoughtful about the school you choose, the career you choose, but no one ever said as much, be very thoughtful about the friends and the friendships that you build. And that's why we have a lot of high achieving people who are lonely their whole life. Well, think about your career. What are you going to be one day? Very rarely, what's the type of social network you're going to build around you? What's the type of friendships you're going to architect? What are you going to be proud of in terms of your friends in the future? What do you want your friends to achieve? What do you want your friends to experience in life? Not just what they give you, but what are you going to give out too? What kind of friendship do you want to create and experience? How do you want your friends to actually interact with one another? Have you ever thought about that? We spend so much time, if you're a parent and you have 2 kids, you're so worried about how they interact, right? I know people who've never even thought, how do I want my friends to interact? I mean, they might think, you know what, we shouldn't put them in a room at a party because they have this history, that background, but very few people are like, I'm gonna actually teach my friends how to be friends with one another. Now, I know some of you might be like, this guy sounds like a control freak. I'm like, I am, but I'm a happy one. You know what I'm saying? I think this is such an important area to architect. Most friends have never talked about how to be friends. They just go, you want to go to lunch? They go to lunch. They talk about the weather, the waiter, the food, what's going on. They leave. And there's no architecting. There's no, I think of like social systems are things that can be shaped. You all think like at work, right? How much we talk about at work, building a culture. More books and more people have spent time on this conversation of building culture at work and never the culture of a friendship.
Rule number 8 is deal with hardships.
Everybody copes differently. There's no right or wrong way to experience loss. There is, however, a healthy way to re-engage life. We know from 50 years of psychological study, and you all know it inherently and innately, that there's ways that we cope that are healthy, and there's ways that don't make us feel good. There's things that we do that can lead to less ability to continue on with life in a happy way. One of the most important and powerful frames I can give you for loss and grief, above all else and above everything else, is conscious anticipation. Conscious anticipation. Consciousness or awareness in life is so important if we're going to cope well. And what we usually mean when we speak about that, especially with loss and grief, is having the ability to anticipate that it will happen. Okay? That it will happen. That if you haven't faced your own mortality and your own death yet, I deeply invite you to do that at some point. Face your mortality, your own personal mortality. Most people have never had a conversation about death in their own mind with themselves, let alone contemplating that maybe they would lose a parent one day, or a sibling one day, or a job one day. In other words, in a spiritual practice, we would talk about this as a concept of awareness to impermanence. You've heard that phrase before, awareness to impermanence, that nothing is permanent. That in a lot of spiritual principles, you might think of, well, what is permanent maybe is if it's God, or if it's universe, or it's the Tao or the way, that there might be something spirit that is permanent, but in the human experience, in our natural world, things are impermanent. Can you face that? Can you face that? Can you anticipate that?
Rule number 9 is be present.
Be present. Try to be present. Like, I really believe, as Denise does, it's like when couples have learned mindfulness, when both of them have learned how to be self-aware in the moment, to be non-judgmental in the moment, to be able to come openly into the moment and be there with the other person in full presence, not stuck 5 years ago, present, everything changes. I would say what our partners, our spouses, our relationships, our families want from us isn't more presence, like material presence, like Christmas gifts. It's presence. They want more sense that we are grounded right here with them, attentive to them, accepting of them, in the moment with them, not trapped in old stories, not angry about the stress or the freaking out about the worries of next week or next month's bills, but rather at dinner with them, in the moment with them, on the walk with them, living in the present with them. And this one, I would guess Denise probably brought up because it's so important in times of conflict to be present with them. And to be, I would say, like if I had to think about like my presence with Denise, when we're struggling or when we're in an argument, I would say if I could give knowing what she needs in that moment more than what I'm kind of built or I was conditioned to as I grew up, is that presence with tenderness. That presence with tenderness. I think that's what lacks in a conflict or a fight. It's like one person's so worked up and the tenderness isn't there. And I raise my hand, I got to work on that. That is one of those things. I grew up I don't know about some of you, I grew up in a super fast twitch, like very speed up to argue, very vocal, not, I didn't grow up around any passive aggressiveness or quiet silence and conflict and judgment. It was all verbal and very physical. I grew up in a place where there was a lot of physicality, a lot, from the neighbors, the friends, the teachers. I mean, I grew up in a place where the principal could swat you with a wooden paddle. Like literally, you got in trouble, you got beat by a wooden paddle by the principal. Like I grew up so like crazy like that. And so my mind, until I was probably about 25, was conditioned for that. And I recognized in a relationship when I was 25, how quickly I got angered and wanted to storm out or scream or holler, or my ego had trapped up, but I was also just angry. I was an angry young man. I worked a decade really hard in personal development to let go of my anger that came from just how I grew up. I had to let go of that and let go of that. Not be perfect, just get a little better every day at it. But that means I was also conditioned that way. And I have to go, okay, that's a weakness of mine. And where does that come out? Usually for me, that will come out in an argument, right? If we're just not seeing something, I just feel it. I feel it literally come up. I feel the emotion of it. It just can be triggered. And what do I have to do? I've got to try to be present. That's why I love her language to this morning. I was like, oh, that's so good. I underlined try like 7 times. Just try. Put the effort back into being present with your partner or spouse, even in conflict, but also in the beautiful times. Put your dang phone down. Be at dinner with them, right? When you're intimate together, don't be staring off at the wall thinking about something else. It's like try to be passionate, intimate again. Like bring your awareness, your physical body, your mindset to the moment with the other person. I tell people all the time, I go, imagine you just found out your beloved partner or spouse is going to be gone in 3 days. They got a terrible diagnosis. I promise you would be so tender with them and so present. Well, none of us know when those days are going to come. None of us know we're going to lose the person. And as I've been with people towards the end, couples, all they want is to hold each other and to be tender with each other. And so being present is about living in this time zone with them right now, in the here and now, not the past, not the future, here. But it's being attentive, tender, thoughtful, and energetically co-creating together. Because some people say presence is, it sounds like presence is just tenderness and boring. I'm like, no, presence is pop and vibe and like the thrill of it all too. Right? That when you went on those first couple dates with that person, you were locked in. You were interested in trying to learn about them. You cared about what your clothes looked like. You tried to smile. You tried to show some physical reaction to what they were doing. There was interest there. There was intrigue there. And you were both there, right? You're attentive. And if that relationship lasted, let's bring some of that back. That energy and the magic from that time you fell really in love, when you went crazy for each other. What was there? What was there? Intention. What was there? Mindfulness to one another. What was there? Acceptance, and also not just accepting them, but pulling them in with your presence. Like you were drawn in, right? You were drawn together, they say. What was that? That's that energy. That's that presence. That's bringing us together. We must rekindle that over and over and over in a relationship. It begins with both of us finding presence.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is refuse mediocrity.
You must choose the life of excellence. You must choose to reach for that high performance experience, not go through the average experience in life. You deserve more than a humdrum, boring, distracted, unfocused, unmotivated life. To get more of that vibrancy, that pop, that connection, that fulfillment, You got to refuse mediocrity. I know when I walk in the office someday, listen, guys, when I walk in the office someday, I don't feel like it. So I do everything we've talked about here and everything with the high performance planner or my morning routines or everything we're covering in coaching month to month to month to month. Everything that you are learning as you stay with us, as you progress right here, because I won't let you off. Every month I'm going to challenge you. Every month I'm going to remind you of that discipline. Every month I'm going to cheer you on. You have so much extraordinary power and capability in your body. Don't ever forget that. Your mind, your heart, your soul, it is geared and bred and built for service, for something extraordinary. You got something to give in this world, something to create in this world. So on the down days, on the discouraging days, you don't lose the day because you refuse to be mediocre. You say, no, I have the mindset. I have the identity. It is my role to be the person who shows up with excellence. You are a high performer. You know there's another level of experience for you.
Could you write that down and underline it 20 times for me? Improve the situation. Build the relationship. I literally mean this. Don't watch this passively. Write it on a piece of paper right now. Paper, pen, remember those? Improve the situation. Underline, underline, underline. Build the relationship. Underline, 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 underline. If you could do me that favor, we just change your life forever. If you can look at that piece of paper before you have that next difficult conversation, we just change your life forever. Improve the situation, build the relationship. Someone make me a quote card and post it on social media, tag me up. I want to see it. All right. Improve the situation, build the relationship. From that perspective, everything can change. Now, trust me, I know. Already in your mind, you've been thinking, but you don't understand. This guy tweet me. You don't understand. This person said this on social media. You don't understand. I got this email. You ain't met my husband yet. I know. You're like, oh, you don't know my boss. You don't know this. No, I do know. I've worked with them for 15 years, every single week through conflict relationships. I've been there. I've seen it all. And I know those with the higher intention win over the long term. Now, we're going to talk about how to deal with jerks later. But what are we starting with? We're starting with you. We're starting with your frame of the world, shared future, respectful process, empathy and encouragement. We're talking about you, your identity. Who are you going to be? And what are your intentions? We got to start with you. If you start the thought of conflict and you're immediately blaming and pointing at other people, man, you're behind the times. We can't do that anymore. It didn't work. We've tried that in societies. You've tried that in other relationships. You got to be personally responsible for yourself, your identity and your intentions first. Isn't that one of the hallmarks of all personal development work? Personal responsibility. Starts with you. Change starts with you guys. Accountability means, you know what? My credit card bills, those are mine. I'm accountable for handling those. Instead of avoiding them, I am personally responsible to deal with these. Even if I didn't cause all these problems, I am now the person who, if I'm going to clear the problems off my plate, I got to take some personal accountability for that. I am now the person who gets to choose my attitude today. I am now the person who expects myself to follow a higher standard and to follow through. Accountability, personal responsibility or personal accountability says, okay, I'm going to own this reality. I'm going to plan my way through it. I'm going to follow through. And I'm going to set up checks and balances to make sure I do that. Whether that's setting goals and tracking and measuring the goals and my own behavior towards those goals, or getting a coach, sharing socially in the community, or talking with your friends and family and putting it out there. Now your butt's on the line and you got to do it. I think that's what's important. So often we say, you know, I have dreams. I'm not going to tell anybody. And often in personal development, you hear people say, no, tell people. Because once you verbalized it, you can realize it. Once you verbalized it and it's socialized, now there's an expectation you follow through. Here's my question to you. Do you have enough expectations to follow through? Often when I work with CEOs as their executive coach, what ends up happening is they have that kind of, maybe they have investors and their investors expect them to stay on path. Maybe they need to hit their quarterly goals. But what ends up happening is sometimes they start feeling like their accountability is driven by others. And often high performers feel all these obligations. They are accountable, but they're accountable to obligations that other people have set. And if you want a real fast track to being demotivated, stop setting your own plan. Stop setting your own accountability. This is why, for me, as I told you, I go in my plan section of Growth Day every day. I look at a lot of those plans. I'm like, I'm behind on this, but I don't get discouraged. I just make a plan on how to handle it. Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, I don't like my score here with my friends. I went 3 months without really talking to my friends. I don't get down on myself. I make a plan. I don't fall prey to that victim part of myself that says, but all these other things are happening. And oh my God, I just go, okay, got it. I don't like that. I'm the only one in charge of the ship. You're the only one in charge of those scores. And once you realize that, you're like, okay, I'm accountable. What's my plan? Because sometimes you left your accountability to your boss. You left your accountability to your manager. You left your accountability to your spouse. You left your accountability to the kids. You left your accountability to somebody else, and you didn't internally own it anymore. If you've ever been in my seminars before, I'll talk about this for a while, and then I'll get the whole audience up. We'll play this music, we'll do the lights, and all of a sudden we'll have everyone start shouting, I own my dream. I own my dream. I own my dream. To help them realize again, they're the owner of their life. You own your dream. You own that impulse in your heart that says to get better. Once you're the CEO of your life, not just the follower, everything shifts for us. And that's accountability. When people have clarity about their future and clarity about their purpose, it tends to come in different categories here. Okay, so let me give you some of those categories. First is yourself. I know that sounds like no duh, Brendon, but this is yourself in terms of your identity. This is yourself in terms of who you are becoming. And this is yourself in terms of your self-worth. Okay, I'll cover those three elements here in a second. Self, in regards to your identity. Who am I? Self, in terms of who you are becoming. Who do I believe I am meant to become, or do I desire to become? And self, in terms of self-worth. Am I worthy? These questions make you either feel connected as a purposeful being, or they make you feel terrible. And so let's explore them. Your identity. I always ask this in my seminars. If you've never done this work with me, it's from one of my other books called The Charge. And the charge being like the amp, like the battery pack, like, you know, the subtitle was Activating the 10 Human Drives That Make You Feel Alive. The book is called The Charge. And one of the things I started asking people to do in high performance work was to share with me, to generate and share with me, what are the 3 words that would define the best of who you are today? Like if you had to describe yourself, like let's say you went on speed dating and you sat down across from someone and the question was, okay, share the 3 best parts of you, and with using one word, describe that now. It's kind of like that. Right? It's like, what's the 3, like if I had to describe the best of who I am in 3 words, what would my 3 words be? What are your 3 words? Like, what are your 3 words that is the best of who you are? Or if you struggle with that, the 3 words that would describe the best of who you want to be. I want to make sure that you have your 3 words. And I want your 3 words on a board, or I want the 3 words on your mirror, or I want the 3 words next to your computer. And every day you look at those 3 words and go, today I'm going to be this. At midday, am I being this? At the end of the day, was I that? We need to develop a purposeful sense of being and remind ourselves of it. Judge less, feel better. And a lot of people thought, I started a big, huge movement about this in the first year of the pandemic. And a lot of people thought I meant just about the self. Judge yourself less and feel better. They didn't understand. I was also teaching, judge others less and you will feel better. You know, all that impulse we have to go online on our phones. I guess this is the universal symbology for phones. I don't know why I just did that, but here you go. But you know how we go on there and we just, and we want to judge them. Oh, look at her shirt. Oh, look at that, he's stupid. Oh, he said this, but it's not complete. What an idiot. That impulse to judge others has now been baked into you by a million motions. Here's what I mean by this. This thing right here. Every scroll, every swipe. Did you know that's training your mind to judge? Think about it. Do I look at it longer or not? That's a judgment, isn't it? Is this worthy of a heart or not? That's a judgment. Is this worthy of a like, a share or not? That's a judgment. So what's happening is millions of times now, over the last, since 2007, we have been taught to swipe, turn, scroll, like, judge. And that judgment has built so much into us of an immediacy impulse to judge someone so fast. And we judge people so fast right now. And often, what is that judgment? Good, bad, positive, negative. That's almost it entirely. And as soon as we do that, good, bad, positive, negative, the more that we tilt towards negative, because our ego gets in there. It's safe to have an ego from a distance so we can judge other people. The more that you contribute to this mess of negativity online, the more I promise you will feel the need to ask, what the hell am I doing with my life? Haters don't like their life. And what ends up happening is the more judgment you issue out to others, meaning the less you're compassionate, understanding, empathetic, open, thoughtful, kind, then the more likely it is that you are suffering inside and causing more suffering. The more judgment you have about your neighbors, the more miserable you end up inside. What do you think about that? The more judgment you have about your neighbors, the more miserable you end up inside. That person quit the job, you hate them, you judge them as idiots. Oh, that person, did this thing that you didn't like. Oh, they're idiots, I hate them. The more that you do that, the more in your heart, the negative energy starts to pervade. And the more that negative energy pervades, the less in tune you feel to the life that you desire. The more negativity inside for others, the less in tune you feel to the life that you desire. What's my energy vision? How do I really want to feel? How do I want to feel mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? That is an energy vision. That's an energy vision. And I had to set that in my life. Most of that came from pain. I was mentally and emotionally exhausted, depressed, suicidal, and I knew I didn't want that. The car accident I had at 19 years old, at a time when I was suicidal, helped me realize I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to live. It helped me realize I didn't want to feel like that anymore. I just know how to feel better. And that's why I'm here today. That's what got me into personal development. I was a young, dumb kid from Montana who had no idea how to feel better. And I said, you know what? I want to feel better. If you are struggling with the sense of purpose today, you are lacking a routine or a practice to look at your tomorrows. Raise your hand if you got that one. If you are struggling with purpose today, you're simply lacking a routine or practice to look at your tomorrows. I tell everybody, you want to be a better leader, you want to be a better parent, you want your health together, you want to build a bigger business, you want to earn more money, you got to look at your tomorrows way more consistently. Not on January 1 or December 31st, but daily. That's why I force myself to look at a year calendar every day, because I'm not good at that. And I know that about myself. And sometimes when you're not good about something, you need to create a habit or routine that you will stick to and find some joy in. So usually before I get to that wall, that battle board, I got a cup of green tea in my hand because I love it. I got a journal next to me because I love that. I love green tea and I love journaling. I'm not so good at the vision part, but I've created the routine. Just like on email, I've created a routine there that helps me go through a process that I know I need to do, but I'm not as good at. You all follow? So this is what I'm suggesting to you. If you're lacking vision, we need to practice to look at your future more often. So critical. It's why when you do that morning mindset prompt in Growth Day, one of the questions asks, what's a project I should keep in mind that I'll be doing in the future that I might not be able to do today, but I just need to keep it on the dashboard of my mind? And people always ask, well, when I do this thing, it's kind of the same thing every day. I got to, I wrote down I'm going to write a book one day and I got to write it again and again. I'm like, yes, you have to again and again and again think about your future, even if you're not doing anything for it today. Even if you're not taking the action today, you have to think about it. Right now I'm working on some major media projects. I'm not doing them yet, but I'm thinking about them. I take a moment to think about that project, just trying to get in the unconscious, kind of scrolling around back then to connect me to the future. Because when you feel connected to the future, especially when it's something that you are choosing to go do, to go build, to go manifest, you will feel more purposeful. Part of purpose is sensing a mission larger than yourself. Most people confuse that with a large achievement. But what it was meant to be back in the day in these conversations was it meant you can see beyond yourself. I can see the suffering of others and want to be of service to them. I can see the suffering of others and want to be of service to them. Where that means your angry child, or that means the neighbor who's struggling, or your friend who just lost her husband. It means I can see beyond myself, my immediate selfish, impulsive needs, and I can be with someone. I can sit with someone. I can listen to somebody. I can empathize with somebody. Too often we think of service as like donation. Did I donate to this cause? And by the way, please donate to whatever cause that you get behind. But there's different ways to provide service outside of just money. And the biggest part of humanity is learning to sit with people and be with them in their times of need, to let them know you see them and you hear them and you're curious about their story and you want good for them in their lives. Not your way, not imposing your values, not pushing the answer, but literally just honoring them as a human being.
People have to have that balance of those recharge and recovery moments,
right,
and those moments of like being in the game.
Sure.
And so much of what people don't realize is you're always in the game. Everything you're doing now is preceding that next thought.
Right.
Everything you were doing, 4 hours ago is, and what you put in your body 4 hours ago is preceded the energy you feel now. And I tell people, you don't realize you're always a little bit in training. You're always setting yourself up for success or failure. And it doesn't mean you have to be like on all the time. It just means be deliberate and thoughtful about your habits and what you're doing throughout the day so that you can quickly call forth your genius. That you can quickly and easily flow into the things with your most exceptional side, that you can be intentional and thoughtful and kind with other people because you are in touch with your full humanity. Because what most people are doing is they're so disconnected from their body, so disconnected from their mind.
Because they're just going.
And they're running, they don't realize it, but it shows up in their life. They're running an avoidant strategy in their life, right? And because avoidance feels amazing. Avoidance is a great short-term strategy to guarantee comfort and safety.
Wow.
And avoidance is also a great long-term strategy to guarantee suffering. Right? So avoidance now feels good. Avoidance later will wreck your life.
Sure.
If you keep avoiding life, and what most people are doing is they're avoiding their absolute best. They're avoiding it because the absolute best requires them to put it out there a little bit more.
Right.
The absolute best requires them to like use their brain harder, their physical body harder. When you meet a master negotiator, a master coach, a master therapist, a master, role model who really understands how to do communication well in conflict, what they're doing is they're reflecting, restating, and rephrasing things that the other person are bringing to them. They're reflecting, rephrasing, or restating what other people said in order to demonstrate understanding. Someone says, I'm so pissed at you. It's as easy as saying, I hear that you're pissed. If someone says, I'm so hurt that you did that, it's saying, I know that you're hurt. If someone says, I'm so angry, I hear that you're angry. It's just reflecting back the feelings that they are stating to you. And I mean, literally use the explicit one, even if you don't agree with it, right? If they say, you're being condescending to me, I hear that you feel I'm being condescending, right? It's as simple as just reflecting the words right back. You don't have to validate. You don't even have to agree. It's just hearing it. It's restating it back to them. It's reflecting it. It says, I'm listening to you. I heard the words that you chose to use, right? And it's reflecting back the feelings. If they don't, a lot of people don't know how to access feelings. Research shows most people only have access to like 3 to 4 words to describe their feelings: happy, mad, sad, and confused. Happy, mad, sad, and confused. Most people don't know how to say any other words in that. They have no emotional training. Right? I never did. I had like happy and mad. That's all I grew up with. I was like, happy, mad. That was it. There was no nuance of all the other feelings that we could have. So most people, they might not know how to communicate it. And so if you're sensing it, one way to reflect it is, I'm sensing that you're upset. Is that right? And it's saying, I sense it, and asking to help you gauge the feeling. Or it's just saying, I say it to coaching clients all the time, especially now in this virtual world. I say it on Zoom. And as many of you guys know, my coaching clients pay $1 million a year to work with me. So I'll look at them right on Zoom and say, you know what? Can we take a beat? I'm listening, but I can't quite gauge here through this virtual world what it is you're feeling. Could you describe that to me? I know that sounds so, junior varsity, but I literally say that to CEOs. I say that to Olympians. I say that to my friends, my partners, my spouse. I say it all the time. Hey, can we take a beat here? I'm not sure I'm picking up what it is you're feeling. Can you describe what you're feeling right now? I can't tell. I say that all the time. And now it just opened up the platform for them to express feelings. And that's really important for a lot of people, especially if you're dealing with somebody who doesn't say what they feel, or it's hard to read it on their face. To say, hey, can we take a beat a minute? I can't tell what you're feeling right now. That really can open up the door to better conversation. When we don't have a vision for next week, next month, next year, life can start to feel like we're just in, kind of in the swamp. And that we're just going through the motions. And, oh my God, I'm working so hard, Brendon. Or, oh my God, Brendon, I have all these reasons to be happy.
I already have the great kids. I have a house. I can afford the car payments. I mean, I have all these reasons to be happy, but I don't know, something's missing. I don't feel purpose either. It's usually a disconnect or lack of clarity about your future. And I don't mean 10 years out or 50 years out. I mean, sometimes next month and next year. Really, just sometimes it's just a couple month horizon and lacking clarity and connection with just the next couple months, or in some cases, if you're a longer term strategic kind of guy, the next year or two. I can feel that. If I feel a disconnect for my next year or two, I tend to lose a connection with purpose, a connection with motivation. I feel like the intentions or the productivity of the day are kind of like, for what? You know, it's easy to go, I'm working so hard, but for what? And that for what, I know equals vision. What is the vision of your next couple months or next couple years? No one will give you that. It's time to sit down and think about that. It's why you all know I keep a battle board over here on the wall. And my battle board is like, it's basically like a arts and crafts version of a yearly schedule. It's like a big piece of butcher paper with 12 boxes drawn on it. And the 12 boxes each represents 1 month of the year. And I create themes across the boxes. I write the major projects and deadlines up on the boxes. And I write a bunch of my values up there. And all I do is every day, I just kind of stare at it. I'm a person who am really good. Any persons here, you're really good at just living in the moment. I know a lot of people aren't good at that, but I'm really good at just being here in the moment. I've had to teach myself to do that. I'm not as good of making sure I'm connected to my vision or to a longer term plan. I'm like in the moment, I'm a happy-go-lucky kid. But if I lose connection to the vision, to the future, the happiness goes down. I also see the luck tends to go down when you're disconnected from a vision. So what do? I force myself every day when I come into this office, I like in a home studio here. When I walk in, I stare at that and I force myself to just stare at it and think for 5 minutes. I have a little notepad next to me and I look at where everything is lining up over the next year, sometimes the next 2 years. And I just look at it. I mean, if you walked in, it's really not an attractive thing. I'm kind of like this. I'm just standing there kind of dumb looking, just looking at it like, hoping something comes into the brain that day. Walking through each month, even if I saw it yesterday, I'm just forcing myself to look out. You know why people tend to be motivated January 1st? Because they're looking out again and they hadn't done it for a while. Personal growth and purpose is something to be cultivated on a very regular basis. Otherwise, you lose touch with it. Just like most people say, I lost my motivation. I go, you didn't lose your motivation. You lost the practice of paying attention to the things that matter to you and using your mind to rev you up for those things. That's all. You started going through the motions, and so you lost the motivation. You can still do the same thing, but instead of just going through it unconsciously, bring conscious intention. By bringing purposeful being to a thing, it changes. Well, as you learn to make being a purposeful being happen on a more regular basis, I promise you can shift. And that's the hopeful message for today. I know sometimes you watch something like this, you're not in a good mood. You don't feel good. There's been a travesty. Something's going on in the world you don't like. And your day is just kind of like all over the place. But that's why we're here. It's like constantly doing the work. I would love for you to all type this in either your journal or the chat or the comments right now. I love constantly doing the work. Actually, write it down. I love constantly doing the work. You have to teach yourself. I love constantly doing the work. I get in an argument with my wife. I'm like, ooh, I love constantly doing the work. Like, you have to keep generating the ambition and the engagement and enjoyment of doing the personal development work. You know, I walk out of a conflict or an argument with somebody and I have to go recenter myself. I'm like, okay, Brendon, chance to learn, buddy. What do you got to learn? How can next time be better? How do I really want to show up? How can I repair this? How can we improve the situation next time? How could I approach it differently? What can I watch for next time to make it better? Let me try. You got this next time, Brendon. Be graceful for today. You got this next time. A little more intention. Okay, here we go. Just over and over and over. Giving yourself the grace to learn, to enter the next situation more intentionally. That's the stuff of purpose. You know what feels good for me? Planning. If you looked at my growth day, my plan, it's full. It's filled out with plans and deadlines and reminders. If you look at next to my computer, there's all these checklists written down. And by the way, I don't naturally do that. I actually don't like planning. I love the mental and emotional effect of planning. Anyone follow that one? Yeah, you guys see, right? That's the difference maker for me. I don't like the act of sitting down and doing it. It's not like I find tons of joy in organizing my life. I just don't. I love the mental clarity, the peace, the progress that comes from making plans. Write down your goals, write down your deadlines, identify your projects, know who you need to reach out to, know who you're waiting on, know what your priorities are of the day. If you need any advice on this in Growth Day, remember, you can go to the Learn section, you can smash the Watch Past Events, and you can watch an entire month of training on productivity. You can go to your courses and watch an entire training on the habit of productivity from the world's the world's largest research study on high performance habits. That high performance habit builder course that you have unlocked in the course section of your app. Just go to the Learn section, go to courses, and you can see high performance habit builder. There's a whole section just on productivity. And that productivity isn't done just to get ahead and to succeed. It's because you feel better when you organize your life better. When you lead life and live life with more intention, when you have a little bit more clarity, you feel better. Strip away someone's clarity, their intention, their connection with what they need to do today, and misery sets in over time. We just know it. With no connection to our intention and our future, we feel less motivated and good today. That's why the plan is so important for me.
The first habit is seek clarity. And it's our job to always be seeking clarity and asking, who am I? Who do I want to be? What skills do I need to develop? What contributions do I want to make that align with my creativity and align with my fulfillment? And it's just a lack of clarity. A lot of people achieve the wrong thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people climb the wrong mountain. They lean the ladder against the wrong building. Like, they're high achieving, but they're high achieving towards something that really doesn't fulfill them.
Right.
And so when I meet somebody who's, a jerk or super wealthy and has no friends or doesn't have time for friends, it's because they've never appreciated friends. It's because they've never set an intention to say, I want to be happy in my relationships. And so we make little goals sometimes. It's like, what I need you to do? I need you to go hang out with friends twice a month, dude. You're freaking yourself out and you're freaking your family out because you stop being human. Humans need a social dynamic that's fun and spontaneous and real and authentic. And I meet a lot of these super successful people who have nothing but yes men around them, who have nothing but agencies supporting them, doing this and that. And they lack dudes, they lack friendships, they lack the gals to go out to lunch with. And it's like, let's get you enjoying life a little bit. It doesn't have to be, I don't need to change you. A lot of people go, Brendon, change their career. Or when I get brought in, usually in a conflict situation, they need a major change in their life. Yeah, a lot of people need real friendships. A lot of people need to get to the gym once in a while. And those things start propping up my ability to be more productive. I'm way more productive when I'm happy.
Our social realm is incredibly purposeful. Most importantly is this, and you all know this as strivers here in Growth Day, but I think this is so critical. You've got to be around purposeful people. You got to be around purposeful people. If you feel like the people around you aren't as purposeful as they should, send them to growthday.com. It's like maybe they need a little training. A lot of people need training on this topic. Just like my friend I told you about, the woman I was coaching, who she'd never been trained to ask the question, what would make her feel fulfilled? Most people have never been trained on purpose either. But getting around, striving, giving, generous, kind, compassionate, high-performing people will completely make you feel different about life. I think about my friendships and the people in my life. They got a lot of purpose. And it doesn't mean they have this end game. It means they're living purposeful lives with great intention and appreciation and presence. So they're awesome to be around. Do you have 5 people who are awesome to be around in your life? Like awesome and purposeful. If not, time to meet them.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from Alex Hormozi, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
For me, wisdom is the #1 character trait that I wish to develop. And so when I think to myself, I am wise because I use the same formula that most people and most of us, myself included, use to destroy ourselves with these insecurities.